All right. Good evening and welcome everyone to the Discover ASEA platform. And thank you so much to our Mr. Amazing Alan Noble for getting us started off on the right foot tonight. So I could not be more honored and grateful and thankful to be here with all of you tonight and to share this time with our very, very special guest, Nancy Thunell. And I just couldn't think of a better time, as we enter this season of Thanksgiving. And we just think about all the things we're grateful for. I get goosebumps when I'm thinking about Nancy's father, who is, of course, our founder, Verdis Norton. Nancy is the daughter of our founder, Verdis Norton, and the sister of our founder, Tyler Norton. And as she says, the older, wiser sister, right? We are all sisters that are older are wiser, right? So we are so grateful just to have her with us tonight. And we want to go back and take you through the Genesis. And what I'd like to say is, I want to take us back to the future, right? Because the future belongs to those who see possibilities before they become obvious. And I believe that that's what Verdis really saw when he was asked to sit on that board of directors for that biotech company, probably what, 16 years ago. And what that was really the beginning of what was to take place for him to make major decisions that, in my opinion, would change the course of history for all mankind. And I got to tell you, I'm just covered in goosebumps right now when I think about the decisions that he made and the path and just the divine appointments along the way, the different sequences of events that I think Nancy will be able to shed some light on with us here tonight. So, Nancy, we want to just turn it over to you and have you share a little bit with us, first of all, about just how it all started in the beginning. Um, I'm going to go ahead and just let you share a little bit.
Okay, I'll just kind of give you the story as I recall and as I remember it so many years ago. It was a fascinating time for all of us. My father's four siblings, my his four children, myself and my siblings sat on the very front row and watched as he discovered this technology, and then he himself had his own questions. And what came up very quickly is prove to me what you have. And once all of us in very unique ways found and discovered our own real testimony of what this could do and the potential of what it was capable of doing or what we actually saw it do, changed everything in the early days. And so, what was important to think about is the synchronicity and the divine intervention that played as this whole endeavor was going down one path and then completely was almost uplifted and put on a different path. And Gina and I, in passing over the years, our conversations have been so deep when it comes to the divine intervention through these early days and what exactly happened when. That is the very reason it sparked this conversation between us. And so I think it's important to understand that every single thing, every pathway that we as individuals have been exposed to or experienced that has brought us all in this similar fashion to this single lane of ASEA is profound. And I believe it is divinely orchestrated and that there is nothing in my life that's coincidence and every single thing is well thought out, planned, and that's just the way my life is. So when you look at it from that kind of an understanding and perspective, Steve Jobs did this wonderful address, and he said it's very difficult to connect the dots looking forward, but it's really easy to connect the dots looking backwards. And now that we've been in this so long, it's very easy for you and I to sit and have a spiritual conversation and say, oh my goodness, there was divine intervention there and there and there and there. And so some of the early moments of divine intervention really made the difference. So my father and his corporate career was involved with craft. And Everyone on planet Earth knows how terrible craft food is to the sad American diet. I am living, walking proof of the sad American diet. And my father, even having been in that world and surrounded with that industry, it's fascinating that he was led through these biotechs to this that is such a countermeasure to the damage of the sad American diet, which I also kind of find fascinating. You know, how Verdis came through corporate America and the food industry, and then came across this nutraceutical thing that was enabling such healing components in the body. I mean, it was kind of a fascinating pathway for it to come to him. And then these biotech opportunities that fell into his lap that kind of were another set of dominoes that had to fall for the relationship to be with the PhDs and and to be able to speak that language when he was then again introduced to the biotech discovery of our ASEA technology. And so all these dominoes kind of had to fall into place for these things to be in the right place at the right time. And I don't know if many know, I had a health challenge. Um, when I had my third baby, I almost died, and the baby almost died. And I was so sick. I had 32 blood transfusions. I was in full kidney failure. I mean, it was a doozy of a time. And I was so sick when I came out of that experience, I couldn't walk. And I had a 4-day-old baby and I couldn't walk. And so I ended up moving my whole entire family to my parents' house. And so we lived there until I could walk again. And it was probably 2 years after that time that Dad came across this technology for the first time. And it was really interesting, but nobody really knew that much about it. Um, an interesting story that very, very few know. 10 years before my father saw it, it came to me and a partner friend of mine, and we were asked to look at the financial records of the company that had the technology. And I remember playing with the technology. Boy, that was the 80s. And then a whole 10 years later, it's back in our hands again. And when it came back around again, we had so much safety data done on the science that was given to us from the previous company. We knew it was safe. We knew that there was no foreign chemistry, and we gave it to a lot of people just to try it, just to see if there was a benefit. And if I gave you this product and I thought that it might allow your body to make different decisions and different choices in the way it heals itself, would you be interested? That's really how that's the way we started it. And at that time, it had no name, it had no label, and we would give it to people with the idea that this might make a difference, that this could potentially help whatever it was that they were dealing with. So my dad and I used to keep this note, and it was the running list on a yellow pad of legal paper, and we said it could it be the water list, and that was the header at the top of the page. So every time we would give it to someone and we'd say, Dad, they had, upper respiratory issues and they're feeling better. And this one had, bad migraines or headaches or terrible, issues this way. And my gosh, they're feeling such relief. And Dad, you'll never believe it. It was a skin disorder and they're finding it has a real benefit too. And so my dad and I used to keep this drawer open called Could It Be the Water Stories? As the early days before we even started this and we were giving it to people to experience. Well, my dad at the time said, Nancy, drink it. And I thought, I'm not drinking it. I'll make anybody else but me drink it. So I said to my husband, you drink it. So my husband was drinking it and my siblings barely started drinking it. Tyler didn't want to drink it at the time. But I had a girlfriend who had a challenge, and Tyler, my brother, had a friend who was also having a terrible health challenge. So we both said, would you be willing to try this? So I got one of my girlfriends down to the boardroom, sitting across from Verdis Norton. This is like the very first person in front of Verdis. And I was so embarrassed with the things that he said. And I couldn't believe how he was telling the story. And my sweet friend, Anna D'Agostini, she turned and she looked at me and she said, You know, Nancy, I don't believe anything your father said, but I love you, so I'll try it. And I thought, you know, Anna, that is the way that this whole thing is going to work. That it's this incredible new science that's interesting, but it doesn't matter. What matters is there's a discovery that has no foreign chemistry. It's safe and it's non-toxic and it's allowing the body to make different choices. Would you try it? And we get in these spaces where we complicate it and years into the burn, now I see this languaging so different. And what works is to simplify this and go back to the way we did it in the very beginning. When Alan Noble told me exactly what to say, when to say it, how my language could land, and how it could resonate with someone and make them really go, that's kind of interesting. And that was what I looked for in those early days. And so we all were trying it, and I had given it to a friend to try. And she had gone to some pretty serious clinics around the globe that are well renowned. And they said, We don't know how to fix you. Sorry, go home. There's nothing we can do. So when I said to this girlfriend, Hey, you need to come and see this technology that my dad has just acquired. I think it might help. And I moved into a neighborhood just around the corner from where my mom and dad lived because I was super sick. So I thought, okay, I'm going to leave downtown, move to the suburbs. And that's how I met this friend with this health challenge, Anna. Well, my dad turns to me at the time and he says, You know, Nancy, I'm really going deep on the science behind this redox signaling technology, and I need an atomic physicist. And I said, Dad, that's funny. I'm an artist. I run with artists. I sell art. I'm in finance and I'm an artist. I am not running around with atomic physicists. So I go to church on Sunday and they say, Oh, you're part of the new welcome wagon, Nancy. We'd like to give you this lady. Her name is Iris, and we'd like you to go and meet her so that you can get to know the community and your new neighborhood where you live. So I go over to this woman, Iris, and I go into her front room and I say, Hi, my name's Nancy. And tell me about yourself and tell me about your children. And then I said, Tell me what your husband does. And she says, Oh, he's an atomic physicist. And I kind of sat there and just got the goosebumps and kind of laughed to myself and thought, that was funny. And then she says to me, he has a technology of colloidal silver that's held in saline. And she reaches over into her cupboard and she pulls down a bottle and she goes, Open your mouth. I open my tongue and she sprays my mouth with saline. And I looked at her and I said, Tell me again what your husband does. And she says, Oh, he's an atomic physicist, a PhD, and he's working in nanoparticles at the University of Utah, cutting edge science, where he's taken nanoparticles and teaching them how to find a tumor and then go to the tumor and drop the medicine there. He's like on the verge of tomorrow's medicine. And I said, Iris, your husband should meet my father. And I got goosebumps again. Well, we kind of played it off. Thank you very much. Nice to meet you. And as I would leave my neighborhood, I would pass the street where Iris lived. And I remember driving down there and feeling that whole sensation that Gary Samuelson really needs to meet Verdis Norton. And I thought, oh yeah, yeah, I forgot. I forgot. Oh yeah, yeah. Don't let me forget. I'm going to do that. I swear I'm going to do that. And so one thing led to another. It was not the second time that happened, but the third time it actually happened. It was so pronounced in my car that I remember holding the steering wheel and actually saying, okay, okay, I got it. I remember verbally saying to heaven, okay, I heard that. I heard that. So I called Iris and I said, Could you put Gary on the phone? I'm going to get my dad, Verdis Norton, on the phone. And Gary said, Well, my father's a PhD as well. And I don't believe really much could be revealed in this conversation, but I'm going to get my father on the phone as well. So Verdis Norton, Gary Samuelson, and Gary Samuelson's father get on the phone together. Like 2 days after dad says, I need an atomic physicist. And then I'm meeting my next door neighbor. Oh, he's an atomic physicist. Oh, he's got this technology. Oh, he's got access to the full laboratory at the University of Utah with all of the right electron microscopes. And all these things just kind of were like, they just kind of all fell into place so fast. So in the early days, it was like that. You really were led by goosebumps. And we used to laugh, and Sue Brenchley used to teach me in the early days, you can't build this business on miracles. And we'd say, yes, you can. And she'd say, no, you can't. But there was some real divine intervention in this thing. And I remember it over and over and over again. Someday I want to do a presentation on the stage that says, this is the time this one had a dream, and this is the time that this one had this procession of individuals before their eyes. And there's this one where this one was told that they would find this healing technology. This one was told that it would allow for an indwelling of God. I mean, such beautiful things have been conveyed and shared with people in very, very special moments that started really in those early days. So, we started giving them to all these people, and then they were all sharing it with people that they loved, and we couldn't keep a lid on it. It went so fast to so many different countries. It was it was insane. It was just they want it. And it seems to be having such an overarching benefit to not just one area of catastrophe or challenge, but body-wide, head to toe didn't matter. And so in the early days, it was the right individuals would come along that would bring ASEA from its startup infancy into its space of being a household name around the globe, which is what my dad has said that this would be from day one, and it will be, of course, just as he has claimed it to be, especially with what's coming. And I'm so excited about that. So even back then, we need an atomic physicist, and an atomic physicist would show up. We would need professionals in the industry that were truly authentic individuals searching for solutions for their own catastrophes in their own lives or with their loved ones. And that is truly how we got Sue Brenchley. That is truly how we got Alan Noble. That is truly how we got Trish Schwenkler, Colleen Murray. I mean, Rosemary Skinner. That was the beginning of ASEA, that we would run with our hair on fire and tell these fabulous stories about people that mattered and this product that was making a significant difference, allowing the body to make different choices in the way it healed itself. And all of a sudden, people that we had shared it to mattered when my dad gave it to the pharmaceutical company. Had all of that not played out with that perfect synchronicity, those moments of the pharmaceutical company saying, here's the catch. We'll work with you. You'll be loaded. That's not the issue. That's not the concern. But here's the catch. Shut it down. Get it back. You can't give it to anybody. Every single bit you have, we want it all. And we were like, whoa, whoa, I can't get this back from Anna. I can't get this back from Lulu. I can't get this back from Nick. I can't get this back from Tarek. Rick Nosser sent it all the way to Egypt, then it went to England. It had gone to Canada. I mean, it was going everywhere. I'm like, I can't get it back. This is actually making a difference. This is like Anna comes and sees me, and she puts her arms around me and she weeps to this very day that I gave her her life back. And she was like, I don't trust what Verdis just told me, but I love you. So yes, I'll try it. And I handed her this thing with no name on it. And at that point in time, I told her to drink 8 ounces, which is not the way to begin an introduction to ASEA. She drank 8 ounces, had a terrible, like flu-like experience. I said, drink 8 ounces more. She called back the next day and she said, it's gone. I feel fine. And her catastrophe never happened again. And that's not the way to introduce someone to ASEA. You know, body chemistry can shift quite quickly when you're in a healing crisis of changing the way the body heals itself. And so you've got to be careful when you're bringing such a powerful cleanup element to the body. And we learned those things badly in the early days as well. But, it was Rosemary Skinner in the boardroom with Verdis telling him that's not the way startups are done. And Verdis would slam his hand on the table. It was professionals like Sue Brenchley and Alan Noble that were the reason we were able to have roots to this entire endeavor. And Alan Noble had such a beautiful relationship with my father. It was very, very special to my father. And because Alan was very authentic in searching for a solution for his own father, this became such a powerful experience for Alan. And the things that we saw in the early days is what, to this very day, still draws you into place of action and puts you into a place where you're next to someone who needs to hear the conversation of how this technology is available to humanity. And it's a curious conversation. And most people that I find want to engage in it because of Alan Noble's languaging, because of the way Sue Brenchley and Rosemary and all of those early diamond executives and leaders that are now $1 million and ambassadors, they taught us back then how to say it and how to do it well. And I remember sitting with Alan saying, I just don't know how to break the ice. And he would give me a whole page of ways that I could start my conversation and break the ice. Then I would sit with Sue Brenchley on an airplane and she would tell me all the ways that I could talk to a gatekeeper of any chiropractic office and I could get past a gatekeeper and get them into a very engaging conversation with me. So I just thought, you know what? I'm going to get good at this. I'm just going to figure this out. Gary Samuelson sent me a paper about the science, and I remember thinking reduced oxygen species, yada, 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 yada. And I must have read it 3 times before I went, I'm never talking about the science. But the more you simplify the science and say, you're enabling a shield and your army that chases after bacteria and your shield that protects all the good stuff inside you is just fortified like never before. And your body has choices. That's it. And I think, again, going back to how simple it is the way that this duplicates and the way that you can convey this story to say, hey, I'm in biotech. I own a channel of distribution. I'm crazy about it. I'm so committed to it. I'm now on all continents. I'm operating not just within the US and I'm in global expansion. You should hear about it. I mean, there were ways that these professionals, our leaders of ASEA, taught us how to engage people in conversation. And I think that's what made us successful then is because we didn't have the science, we didn't have all these research, we couldn't say, Tourette laboratories and these genetic studies and all these different things. We just said it works. And could you imagine what life would look like if this works? And I have since discovered that creating a new future for someone is the key in all of this. Could you imagine what your life would look like if you knew there was going to be more money every Friday? Could you imagine if your stress level wasn't going to put you into these fits? That there was a way that I could walk you out of this. And so, you know, I I would have these 4 things that I would always want to talk to someone about. And I was laughing the other day because I was telling you back in the day, I used to have this so memorized. I used to carry these little cards and I would talk about the people, the product, the process, and the program I was going to introduce them to. I can't remember the last one, Gina. And so you'd start with someone and we'd drop a few comments about the product, and then we'd talk about, the people who in the industry of understanding global distribution and how to actually engage a channel of distribution where it pays commissions. What a concept. I mean, you're not on the phone, you're not on Zooms, but you're actually building a channel of distribution where more entities who are consuming volume of your product, the better. And I think that they came in those early days and we were on fire because very few people knew of it. And when you start thinking about the pie of this entire planet of Earth and how many people really know about ASEA, that same sense of urgency and that same joyful conversation can happen even now. And, you know, Dad said there will come a time when enough executives in the industry are behind this that it will move in a movement and it will be global. And I'm watching that actually happen right here before my very eyes. And when the leaders in ASEA declare to the universe what it is they need, it actually happens here. It actually happens. And I watch it all the time. Another time, not very many people know, Dad sat on an airplane first class, happened to sit next to a fellow. They both pulled out their paperwork. They both had redox signaling paperwork. My dad said, I know who you are. He said, you couldn't possibly know who I am. He went on to tell him who he was, and the guy said, how on earth do you know that? And he said, because there's one other person I know of that's studying redox signaling, and that's how they got the whole discussion of what possibly could be used for Renew 28 as a binding agent. What are the odds and the synchronicity that my father would come on an airplane and this fellow and my dad would be like this? And then 2 years later, we had Renew 28. At the same time, a girlfriend was telling me about an adopted little one from China that had a club foot and an open wound that couldn't heal. And they couldn't fix the foot until the wound was healed. And then all these dominoes fall. Divine intervention, Verdis crosses paths with this one other human that can all of a sudden, in one discussion, shift everything. Now, Renew 28 is available. Now, all these people that are struggling with these challenges topically are different. And this little sweetheart is in surgery and completely in a different path of life. I mean, it happens all the time, all the time. And my dad would get these letters and these miracle stories, and he'd get one and he'd open it, and then he'd make me read it. He's like, I can't even read it. And he'd start to cry and he'd pass it to me. And it was a burn victim who showed, explaining the whole story of how he didn't have to do these terrible skin grafts because his body made different healing choices. And it was just the most beautiful thing ever. And my dad would just say, it was a stewardship and it was dominoes falling, and the right people in pioneering ways were being drawn to this. And it has a light and a pull all of its own. And sometimes we forget that. And sometimes we let people in or wolf in sheep's clothing in or all these other things, and we forget how simple and beautiful this is when you really are changing the thought process of humanity and they're thinking of who might I help or how could I serve that person? Or I know that person's got a challenge. I really got to get that ASEA conversation wiggled into our, next visit because it's so important. And so I think that when you go to the divine intervention of all of this, and that the way divine intervention still guides this today, um, we have to remember that we can ask for help and it will show up. We can ask for people to come to our businesses and they will come. And I know it sounds corny to say, but I'm telling you, I've watched front row and I have seen it happen. And I I am a firm believer in the divine intervention of all of this. And someday I'll do a presentation of just the miracles. and prove that we can build a business on miracles. But truly, what it does for the body is miraculous. And that's the secret of ASEA. It's not the miracles, it's a miraculous new way to introduce options to the body. And they're pretty significant options. So
That's
how's that for enough divine
oh
intervention
my
in the early days?
goodness. I'm just in one giant goosebump. Just to kind of recap a little bit, I just want to go back. So it's as if you said, if Verdis hadn't have had the opportunity to sit on the board of that biotech company and then quickly realize with his, magnitude of, being a CEO executive and a strategist, he could quickly see that they had their hands on something much bigger than they even realized.
Yeah,
But
that's
he
what he said.
realized it.
They they just don't have a full picture of what this technology is capable of. They have a little bit of it, and then when Gary came in, he he often has said it's like he was laying the outer pieces of a puzzle together, but he couldn't tell what the puzzle was. And he kept going into the breakdown of H2O and NaCl and what those new components really meant when they were in the body. And he would be like, oh my gosh, we can do this with this component and this with this component. And he would just get so excited. And we used to say, Gary was giddy. I mean, when can you make a PhD giddy? And Gary would get giddy when he would come out and Verdis, and they'd get on the phone with all these other PhDs from the previous company's biotech laboratory. That was Dr. Naidu. And they really had a good conversation back then about what they really needed to do to stabilize the ASEA technology for the shelf life that we have today. And so
Well, and
Gary,
Nancy, it was my understanding that when Verdis first asked Gary to take a look at this,
yes,
that Gary said, "Well, Verdis, that's nice, but I think we already know everything there is to know about salt water." And he said, "No, Gary, this is not salt water, and I want you to stabilize it." And it was my understanding that Gary took about 3 months dissecting the science behind it before he came
yes,
back and said, "You
yes,
absolutely have something here, but I
yes.
don't know if I can stabilize it." So at 3 months with a medical atomic physicist, but sometimes when we think, like you said, that we have to go back and learn all the science, no, they already did.
No, they already did.
They already
You
did.
never before have been able to offer someone a shield that enables their army and their protectors to act at this level. I mean, shields up, go after any bacteria or virus. I mean, you've really not had an option like this available to humanity. And so it really truly has been a missing piece of the puzzle. And that was what has become so exciting is for not only that missing puzzle to be revealed here in this space, but for the ongoing discovery and the importance of redox signaling and biochemistry in the body and discovering how important the platform is for this balance in all things and how fascinating it is to be able to restore that homeostasis of balance within the body so that the optimal function of those cells are doing what they need to inside the cellular structure where the RNA and the DNA and all that important information is instead of the outside of the structure, which lots of people think, oh, if I drink a plant-derived botanical antioxidant, give me an orange. It's the same thing. Why is a redox signaling molecule so much more important than, any of those things? And Gary, when he starts to help you understand the size of an ASEA molecule and the intelligence of the molecule as a component in your biological processes, he said, Nancy, there really are trillions of intelligent molecules in ASEA. And the minute you put trillions of intelligent molecules that have an actual role responsibility inside the body, and you're just saying, go. There, there's nothing that can act as a catalyst and make you create more antioxidants, makes your whole process produce more, better, and becomes a catalyst to clean up. And so Dr. Samuelson said to me one time, he came back from a symposium in California, and I said, tell me something you didn't know. in that whole entire weekend, tell me something you didn't know. And he said, when you drink ASEA, there are pathways in the body that will allow redox signaling molecules, which are toxin clearing escorts, to unplug different pathways. And you don't only have to have urine be the only way that toxin leaves your body. It can go through your fecal matter. It can go through different ways to exit the body when ASEA is in there. And Gary said, I did not know that there were pathways that would open up when ASEA was present and give the body different choices. It's really kind of fascinating, even as the many, many years that the research has continued at such a depth that even now it is staggering. And what they're discovering is life-changing. What the company is about to reveal in the first part of the next year is as big as ASEA. It's as big as that. And there's more. And we keep thinking, how could there be more? And this is so exciting. It's
As if
just,
we're just getting started and we've been here 15 years, but we've laid a solid foundation, right? We're ready to take on
it's
explosive
being
growth.
prepared. It's being prepared in the right way. And, it's being handled very carefully. There were opportunities for the owners of this company to take it different directions, and they have chosen not to. Many choices for them to bring other partners in, and no way. This is special. There is a stewardship here and a sanctity to the way this began, and the people's lives that have shed tears and sweat over building ASEA. That means myself included. I know what it means to build a business. I know to be in the Founders Club, Director 700 to the $1 Million Club. I know how hard that is and how joyful that can be and how hard that can be and how joyful that can be and how hard that can be you know, because that's the way it is. And and you've got to extrapolate out of the joy, um, maintaining the long-term vision of what you are set out to accomplish. You're building a channel of global distribution, and it's yours from you. Nobody else's, it's nobody else's team, it's nobody else's group. It is your channel of distribution. And everybody loves to talk to everybody else in this thing, and then you end up spending so much time enjoying everyone instead of really focusing on the right conversations to build your channel of distribution and bring in key partners, not projects that you're on the phone and you're doing other things. I mean, real partners who want to like carry their piece of the wagon and push it along with you and run with a torch without you right there lighting it every time it blows out. I mean, there's really a synergistic thing that happens when you have a movement that happens at the same time. So even before the professionals like Sue and Alan and Rosemary came, I turned to my dad in the very first few weeks of ASEA and said, well, how many applications should I bring you on Friday? And my dad, he said, you should bring me 50. And I went, okay, well, that sounds like a fair number. Okay, fine, 50. I didn't know that was bad. I brought 47, got in huge trouble over it. And the next week we had 187. But imagine that. People don't start like that anymore. People start
I got to say that the size of your success is measured by the strength of your desire and the size of your dream and how you handle disappointment along the way. And
that's
I'm sure
true.
you must have taken some arrows in the back, some slaps in the face, because you lived on the beginning days when, like you said, we didn't have the science, we didn't have the validation. People
No,
probably told you were crazy selling salt water from Salt Lake City, and you had,
no,
in spite of all of that, you pushed forward, and that is
no.
such
I'm
a
telling you,
success.
Alan taught us what to say. I'm not kidding. Alan taught us what to say. And when Alan Alan, I remember like tonight when we were getting on this phone call, it honestly took me back. I remember one time I was out on my deck and Alan and I were hosting one of our very first calls. And there were probably 20 people calling from all over the United States. And we were tickled pink that we had California and Florida. And today, to hear all of these countries, what a humbling experience to think Alan taught us in 2008 and in 2009 how to talk about this successfully, and he still is today. The one we all follow, the one we speak of, the one we say go to this place, we all follow his system. You don't have to follow anybody else's program or system. It's out there, it exists, and it's successful. And it works. And I think that
And it's for everybody who doesn't know, that's discoverredoxtraining.com. And we are so incredibly grateful and thankful to Alan Noble for putting together that vast array of tools and resources for us today. It's been
that the whole
absolutely
entire
amazing.
company uses. I mean, Alan really has become kind of if Sue Brenchley was Mama Molecule, I have to say it, Alan Noble is going to become the Papa because he is where everyone turns. He always has been. Even in the early days, we all went to Alan for the training. We went to Alan for the calls. Alan did them every single week without fail. You trusted him because you knew you could tell the story in a beautiful way and it made it easier. And so from the very beginning, it was the professionalism of Alan that changed the way this company was run. No kidding. And Rosemary and Trish and Sue and I mean, they really were impactful. And they kind of gathered together this group of early diamonds and said, we're going to do this and we're going to drive roots in this company. And they did. And they went deep and they went strong. And they've continued to be the authentic leaders that they were in the very beginning. I mean, these are really good people still teaching really good people how to talk about a really good discovery. And I think
Absolutely.
there's yeah, divine
Yeah. So
intervention in every piece.
I just want to say, rapid growth isn't just about momentum, right? It's about building a foundation. And I believe that ASEA has taken their time in building a very solid foundation that can support us over a long period of time. And I believe that they have strategies for creating solid structures and tracking essential metrics to anchor our growth. But Nancy, I want to know what you think about when we say that we have $21 billion companies right now in this industry that we play in. $21 billion industries. Where do you think we're going on this bell curve? I mean, I feel like we're just getting ready to explode into exponential growth and just mass um, growth here. Because we
I, I,
even
I
touched
think the
that.
massive growth is on this brand new platform of Redox. I think that having that core technology, what is in that bottle, is so extraordinary to humanity. And these other pieces, being able to come up with Renew 28 and the topical applications and to see the differences in wound healing or topical healing and just watching it right before your very eyes. The shifting that has taken place in that arena. And for us to then be able to go say, hey, we could play in the world of aesthetics or skincare. And then in the early days, it was because my husband was drinking this stuff that we found out that there was this athletic component. And he's a professional cyclist and races everywhere. And in the early days, he's like, Nancy, I'm really sick. Something's wrong with me. He's like, I'm killing myself on my bike and my heart rate is not where it's supposed to be. I know what my maximum heart rate is when I work out and something's wrong with me. So we kept saying, no, try it again, try it again, try it again. Well, we finally said, Dad, we think there's a real component to the body understanding lactic acid. Like there's a cleanup component, and Mark's right back at it. And his output is as much as it is on high workouts. I mean, maximum heart rate pushing way up there. And all of a sudden, he's doing more, and his heart rate is less. We can't quite figure out how these things are happening. And so at the time, um, he said, well, let's give it to a bunch of people. So we did. It was just, this will drive many of you crazy. I had 90 cases to give away once upon a time. To give these athletics this experience to see this. And they'd come back and say, Nancy, I was running the back half of my marathon faster than the front. I was doing negative splits. I don't have jelly legs. I wasn't throwing up, all these different things. And they were like, I can't believe it. And so when Mark did the first VO2 max study, his shift was so significant. They said it's never been done before. It couldn't possibly be that. Do it again. So my husband did that test 3 different times on that VO max where they built it up, make you kill yourself. And truly, we were astonished with what was discovered. We called the whole athletic side the gift back then because we really didn't even understand what it was we were speaking of in that arena. And so as you can see, it touches in skincare and look what happens. It touches in the world of athletics and look what happens. It's now touching in a couple of new arenas. And as we come to understand the importance of redox and the way that we still have the 4 centerpieces of that chessboard for a bit longer. You want to control the middle, and I hope we get it a little bit longer, and the world someday will catch up to us. But right now, we really still have something that is so remarkable, and we are given an opportunity to build a business in this day and age around a technology that belongs to tomorrow. And it's still here.
And here we sit 15 years later as the #1 cellular health company in the world with one technology, soon to be 3 applications, taking over $3 trillion markets: health and wellness, athletic performance and recovery, and skincare and anti-aging. I love being 63 today. I mean, in 63 in this, at this time of my life and feeling like I'm
Don't
36.
look the same when we're pushing 60, right? We just don't look the same.
Grow younger biologically every day as we get chronologically older. That's what I love. So, Nancy, we just so appreciate you being here with us tonight and taking some of your precious time to share with us some of these most valuable memories and experiences. And it's so exciting to just hear you share these stories, knowing that it was just so, like I said, divinely appointed along the way.
It
This
still
truly
is.
was
It really is.
miracles upon miracles. And today, it's no wonder we call them miracles in a bottle and hope in a bottle. And so many people are having life changing experiences with these molecules today, thanks to your father. Life without purpose is the greatest tragedy. And I just want to say, because of your father's decision to turn down that very, very large offer from those pharmaceutical companies, which I understand was backed by 3 generations of generational wealth. I'm not sure how many people on planet Earth could actually turn down that kind of money, but your father did, because he knew it was all about the people. He put the people first over the money. And that's why we love being aligned with this company today, because of his vision, his mission, and his values. And he has given us all the opportunity to live life with purpose and on purpose here, with more meaning and more value than we could ever bring to humanity. So I'm so, so grateful to be aligned with this company and just to be a part of this ASEA family.
It's true. It was the right thing to do. People's lives mattered. Had we not given it to all those people, our heart would not have been involved and it would have been just kind of a business decision. But because the sanctity of life was so important and there wasn't a way we could have pulled it back from these people that were just having these extraordinary experiences, it was people that made the difference. It was the fact that they were experiencing joy and happiness. That's what started this company, is the fact that it was working. It was really working in an extraordinary way. And I remember my dad thinking, Nancy, 9 months in is when he said we're profitable. And I remember him taking what he needed to for the startup and for him to say, Today's the day we switch. And, Tyler said recently at an event that, uh, Amway closed it, Tupperware closed its doors because they had picked up over the years so much debt that they couldn't service the debt as a company. And ASEA from the very beginning has said we carry no debt. And that is such an important thing when you're in this world of global economy, when you can play these games differently. And ASEA, in its strategic play and the development behind the company, is so specific and so protective to all of us. It makes the strength of its uh, ability to be here for the next 20 years, long lasting for the legacy that we want to leave for our children's children. When I first started this, I said, Dad, what's your exit strategy? What are you doing with this? And he said, No, Nancy, this will be a legacy we will leave to your children's children. And I've seen it. I've seen people come and wait to put their arms around my father, that he was brave enough and courageous enough to do a hard thing, because that was it. It was hard. It was hard to say, no, we're going to turn the other direction because this is so unique, because it is an answer to these megatrends. I know we can do this. And we were smart enough to know that the Alan Nobles of the world, the Gina Morans of the world, those that would come and would get behind this and sing this song better than I can, better than Sue can, better than Alan can. There will people that will come today that will do this better than we did. And that's the whole point, is that we have created the foundation and the structure so anyone can come and participate in any way they want to, whether it's, I want my product paid for. I remember when Pam Wilson, Tyler's sister-in-law, said, Nancy, if I could just get my diapers paid for, that's all I care about right now. And then it was like, well, okay, we did that. So now what? She goes, could I get a car? We did that. And then it was like, could we get a house payment? We did that. I mean, she was gold. And I mean, it was just a change in her life that has propelled her now. She's the CEO of a IT company because of ASEA. I mean, it changed her life in so many different ways. And so I love watching ASEA change lives. I'm thrilled to see the next chapter. I am thrilled for brand new people being exposed to this for the very first time, because if you've heard it once or you've heard it 1,000 times, it is worth the time you spent listening to this story again. And perhaps tonight you'll think, it's worth me calling and just saying, I heard something fabulous last night. Maybe said a little differently, heard it another way, but it got me engaged enough that I wanted to call you and tell you about it. So if nothing else, I hope someone wants to go listen to Alan Noble's Discover Redox and be moved to make a phone call. And in the kindest, nicest way, say something wonderful has happened in the world of science, and I just got to share with you this discovery is now available to humanity. You need to know about it. And then you need to know I'm in global distribution and I'm looking for global partners. And I'm also looking for anyone with a health challenge. And I'm looking, and you probably should know, I'm ready to launch my business. So that's kind of how I finish that part. But I usually ask for those three things before I finish those conversations.
I love it. I love it. We're gonna have to bring you back on for a special training of just what to say and how to say it, because
Oh, we'll get Alan to do that. He taught me everything I know.
Nancy, it truly has become a legacy business, and I could not feel more grateful to know that I can hand this down to my children and who knows for how many generations to come. But this has been
True.
so beautiful, and all because of the very tough, like you said, very hard decision your father made that day. And I believe that all of our lives will be forever changed and blessed in ways that we could never imagine. And we have more people to share this great gift to humanity with. So every day is just another blessing to um, make a meaningful difference in someone else's life by sharing this. So thank you for inspiring us and encouraging us and just sharing these deep rooted miracles and stories with us. And I know the chat's just going crazy. Everybody's you, just thanking you. I can just see it.
Oh, it's fun to tell these
Crazy with you.
stories. I'll do anything for you, Gina. I think the world of you and Alan and all those in my ASEA family, it's really spectacular. So,
All
uh,
right, well, you guys heard her. I'm going to take advantage of that.
I
I'm
know
not done with this woman yet. She has
we
two
can,
golden nuggets for
yep,
clean.
do it as often as you want to.
But we will let you go tonight and get back to your family and your time. And we just want to wish everybody here a very happy Thanksgiving and just this season of gratitude. We just couldn't be more thankful to be here and to be united as one family as we get ready to take on this next season and venture with
Yeah,
ASEA as we have new technology coming.
I
So
know. It's really exciting.
excited.
My best to you. I see you all later. I'm here for you whenever you need me. So thanks, Gina. My best
Thank
to
you
you. I
so
love you.
much. I'm so grateful for you. Thank you, Nancy.
Okay, thanks.
Love you.
Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks everyone for joining in tonight. We appreciate you. Have a wonderful and happy holiday with your family and friends.